Who here has had somebody ask us, why don't you get a real job?
Who here has eaten stinky tofu?
Who here has been asked if they have water in Taiwan?
Who here speaks Chinese?
I don't want to set the expectation. I study it all the time, if that helps. Missionary Life Confessions! That was actually way more on cue than I thought it would be.
Alright, so our first question is in Chinese, so I'm going to really try to read this correctly. So the question comes from Eunice, and she says,
Thank you, Eunice.
你们做这些会很牺牲很委屈吗？会不会总是委曲求全，而不能完成自己梦想？
Like, did we have to give up any of our dreams to become a missionary, or what kind of compromises did we have to make in our life?
I think we kind of live in a generation where even when we get our dreams, we're sacrificing dreams to get our dreams. So people are kind of just always perpetually miserable. I do think that a lot of times people think that, oh, if I wasn't a missionary, then I would be this. But that's no different than any other career. I know people who make lots of money who program computers who think, man, I wish I could just go into woodworking or something. I think contentment is kind of a challenge, whoever you are. But for what you give up to be a missionary, for me, it's totally worth it because there's a sense of satisfaction in our job and work that I didn't really get when I did other things.
我自己觉得我越来越很像耶稣，他的梦想会变成我的梦想，所以他想要我做的事是我也想要做的事，所以我觉得我不需要，不要做我想要做的事情，因为我想要荣耀他，我知道我可以当宣教师，这样会荣耀他，所以我觉得就为我自己，不是很难，因为我觉得我很久以前想要当宣教师，所以这是我的梦想。Our next question comes from Sharon. Thank you, Sharon. Her question is, what is a bottleneck in your ministry life?
For those who don't know what a bottleneck is, it's like if you get like a bottleneck and you're trying to pour water out, only a certain amount can come out. So in our ministry, what basically limits our effectiveness.
For me, whenever I think about being bottlenecked, a lot of times people assume missionaries have so much freedom and all this free time because it's not a real job. I would actually disagree with that because I would say that a lot of times missionaries work longer hours than the average person. Like on nights that we're editing videos, we'll come in the office at 9 in the morning, but we usually don't leave until past midnight. Or people usually have Sundays off of work, but for missionaries, it's you are really heavily involved with your church and other ministries. I feel bottlenecked by time because I feel like my job never stops. It's whenever I come to the office, I'm working, but whenever I leave the office, I'm usually working and doing something for ministry. It just feels like it's a 24/7 job. And so I think sometimes I feel constrained by time.
I think for me, maybe language. I don't know, is that
Oh, yeah, that's a very good bottleneck.
Yeah.
She swears all the time.
I think no, learning Chinese. I think there's a lot of things I would love to be doing, and this isn't the same for every missionary. Most missionaries, when they go to a field, they're going to learn the language there. They're going to be fluent. It's a little different here because we kind of have an English environment, and I'm just taking 3 hours of Chinese classes a week, so I can't really become fluent super quickly that way. But I think there's a lot of ministry things I would want to do and discipleship that I want to do that I can't. I can still try as best as I can, but I could do a lot more, I feel if I was fluent in the language. Okay, next question. Fun question. Are you afraid to eat food from these countries? If so, what foods are you afraid to eat?
My first month I was here, I lost 10 pounds or 5 kg because I literally didn't eat anything because I was afraid of everything. I was a very picky eater, and now I will literally eat anything on the face of the planet besides blood. If you watched our blood video, link it here. That's pretty much something I won't eat. Stinky tofu, I was totally afraid of it, now I'll eat it. I mean, I really can't think of something in Taiwan I won't eat. I think I've literally besides blood, have eaten everything.
I find it awfully convenient that you have a religious reason for not eating blood. Just
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Achievement unlocked.
And when it comes to Hailey and Emily, it's like the perfect yin-yang. Like if Emily likes a food, Hailey hates it. If Hailey likes a food, Emily hates it. It's pretty impressive. I've actually never seen such balance.
You can try it in the comments. You can post any food. One of us will like it, the other will hate it.
Yeah.
It's
true.
undone.
Yeah. I would say that for me, I'm not generally a super picky eater, except for when it comes to things in America that are pretty common, like mayonnaise and mustard. But in Taiwan, stinky tofu is hard. The idea of it, to me, is okay. Like, I'm not grossed out by it. But my body actually dry heaps when it gets near me. So even if I tried to eat it, I would be throwing up while I ate. And so I've never actually ate it, which is kind of weird because almost every American has tried that. But I've tried all the other stuff the Americans haven't.
That's a pretty big claim.
Everything.
Everything.
Ask in the comments.
The Americans.
Lu Wei, fish head soup is it an organ.
I
Probably
love-
had it.
Okay, just side note, Jai has like the best fish head soup ever. Go Taiwan.
I'm not afraid to eat foods. I don't like them though. That's my thing. I'll eat it. I will eat anything once, at least once. So I hate chow tofu. I ate it once, hated it. So I never ate it again. So like, I will never refuse it the first time. The first time, I will try it. And then if I realize I don't like it, I will refuse it the second time. Yeah, not afraid, I just make conscious choices. Okay, our next question is from Abby. Is there anything you regret about your decision to become missionaries? No. How about just, no.
This is Missionary Life Confessions. You can confess. For me, it's no regrets because I counted the cost beforehand. But I feel like if you don't count the cost of what it is to be a missionary, you can be kind of upset if you show up and you're like, oh, I gotta eat blood now.
Okay, what is the best and worst part about missions?
I think the best part is, it is our full-time job to see people come to know Jesus. So that's pretty exciting because I don't know, I kind of see the purpose of my life is to like make heaven crowded, and just the thought of that makes me really, really excited. And so even if I was here for 20 years and only saw one person come to know the Lord, I think that it would be totally worth it. I think the worst part is like having multiple homes. I feel like my heart is always in different places at the same time. And I think I really struggle a lot with, especially being far away from like my family. There's things that happen in America and I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed out on this wedding or I missed out on this birthday. You just see like all your friends and families, like life just keep moving on. And your life is moving on too, but just in a completely different context and different way. And then whenever you go home, a lot of people expect like people to ask like, oh, how's Taiwan? How's this? And then you start talking about it and 3 minutes later they're like moving on to like, hey, did you hear what happened to Jimmy last week? And it's like there's no context to like your life, so people don't care the same way. And it's kind of hard because whenever you go back, people really don't understand like what you've experienced or what you've been through or how your life is different or even how your worldview is completely different than the worldview that you grew up in. So I think that's the hardest.
I think in a non-spiritual context, one of the best things is the sense of adventure and exploration. Like our job, we get to see some of the craziest things in the world that very few people get the opportunity to see. We get to film them. So that's one of the best parts. One of the worst parts is probably getting sick. Just not nearly as comfortable to get sick in a foreign country, although the bill is more comfortable in Taiwan. But not be able to tell what your symptoms are and to have kind of a runaround, it can be really challenging in a country where you don't know the language, you don't know the medical care. And
Best part, the people. Worst part, the people. Now we're going to do a quick speed round! When are you going home to America?
Not today.
I have no idea.
Not today, Delta.
What is the best way to prepare for missions in another country?
Maybe meet a friend that's from that culture.
Take your expectations, wrap them up in a little ball.
Throw them away. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think start serving where you are. If you're serving where you are, then you'll serve on your mission field. If you're not serving where you are, it's not going to change when you leave. So start serving where you are. What material thing do you miss the most?
The iced chai from Starbucks.
Take speed round.
Drywall. Everything is made of cement, so unless you want to hammer drill something into the wall just to hang up a little piece of paper, it's frustrating.
Chick-fil-A. How do you support yourself?
We don't.
I don't know if we should speed round that question.
People support us.
Link to the other video.
We actually made a video on that.
We'll
couldn't
link the
do
video.
this. Yeah, we couldn't do this without churches and people.
What has been your hardest obstacle cross-culturally?
Language.
A culture of indirectness.
Mm.
I'm very direct.
Japanese tigerhead wasps. Those things.
Favorite cultural food?
Bing Shilling Hong Cha, which is black tea with ice cream. It's delicious.
Lardy rice. Lurofan.
Neuromin. Beef noodles. Thank you for participating in our speed round. Now back to our normal programming. Our next question is from Esther. 是因为什么样的情况下确定要成为传教士? So, like, what circumstances led you to become a missionary? Let's go!
Just say no immediately after. I would say when I was 15, I was at a Word of Life camp, and Harry Ballback was speaking. He actually went to a village in the Amazon to basically share the gospel with them, and when they came, they found out the village was really sick. So they actually traveled up the Amazon to go get medicine, but it took many, many days. And so when they returned, a huge amount of the village had died, and they actually had to bury a lot of the people in the village. And it was a pretty sad story, but basically he talked about how important it is that people know the gospel, and that even if you had the answer and you go to them, time is precious. And that for me was really impactful. And I was about 15 and realized, you know, like, I could pursue money and I could pursue all this stuff, but if I really believe the Bible, like, I'm gonna have eternity to have a blast. Like, God created beaches. If I like beaches, I can like surf for 10 million years, still haven't wasted any time in eternity. But if I only have this life, what matters is what I do in this life. And so for me, that made me realize all this stuff that we pursue instead of the gospel and serving Jesus, it's just very easy, and very often people fall in love with this present world. And for me, I think it would be very hard to work a different career and not be in love with this present world. I live best and serve best when I'm in full-time ministry.
Okay, tell me a funny story about something that happened to you as a missionary.
Well, this one will really make you guys chuckle.
Loading bar for funny stories.
I mean, I've got a lot of funny stories, but I don't know what time I had.
So my funny story is with language. So I'm like constantly learning new words. It's a process. And a lot of times you learn them in like out doing things. So I was with my friend once, and we were sitting in like a park, and I looked up to the sky and I saw these birds. And I know the word for bird. I thought, okay, the thing is, if you don't know anything about Chinese, Chinese has tones. There's 4 tones, they're very different. If you have a different tone, but the same sounding word, the word is totally different. So I looked up and I said what I thought was bird. It wasn't bird, it was pee. I said pee, like urine. I should say meow, and I said meow. It's totally different. Thankfully it wasn't like, it was my friend. She just laughed, and then I laughed, and then I never did it again.
One of the first times I came to Taiwan, it was before the days of smartphones, and we didn't have like Google Maps or GPS. I didn't speak the language at the time, couldn't read signs. We were going on like a scooter trip from like this city to a city that's only about 3 hours away driving, and we were like, oh, we'll use like the compass. 5 minutes into the scooter trip, our friend that had the compass dropped the compass on the scooter, so it just shattered. So then we're like, oh, we'll just follow like the signs for like south. We knew like what the character was. The 3-hour trip ended up taking 11 hours into the night, and one of the main rules in Taiwan is that if you're on a scooter, you cannot be on the main highways. Somehow we're just like, oh, look, it's south. That's the sign for south. And so we drove our scooter onto the main highway, and a few minutes in, we're like, oh my gosh, like just terrified. So we like pull off at the nearest rest stop, go inside, like use the restroom, like trying to come up with a plan on how to get our scooter back off the highway. And whenever we got back out to our scooter, our car is surrounded by police. We're like terrified because I didn't have my passport on me, I didn't have a Taiwanese driver's license on me, I didn't even have my like Chinese ID, nothing. They're just like yelling at us like in Chinese. I'm just terrified. I'm like, I'm gonna be deported. Like, this is awful. This is like gonna ruin my testimony. Like, so scary. And we ended up being like police escorted off the highway, like a train of police with like me and Jake and then a couple of our friends that we didn't speak Chinese. So that's the funny story.
One of our questions that we asked was, why not missions in the U.S.?
Ooh, that's a good question.
We're all from the U.S.
That was actually a question from Tess Lundy.
Oh, okay.
Shout out, sister.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not gonna answer it.
I'm totally open for it.
Yeah.
I believe with all my heart that God calls you to people and not places. I came to Taiwan to be a part of this particular team of people, and I knew that the spiritual gifts I had would benefit this team, and I know that they had spiritual gifts that I was lacking in, so I felt like for this season of my life, I felt like I'd be a good part of this team. It's not like Taiwan or America, it's just like, where is God asking me to be? And right now I feel like he's asking me to be on this team.
I would say just being strategic at this moment. I think things have actually changed a lot in America, so I think more about the need for American missions than I probably did 10 years ago, because of just, I feel like people are way more divided and there's a lot less Christian influences than there was when I was growing up. I think one of the reasons that Taiwan specifically is because I could see this being a place for a huge missions movement. One of the reasons I think Taiwan is the linchpin for reaching Asia is speaking Chinese, but being a democratic country with people who are relatively middle class, highly educated. If you look at demographics in the US, some of the number one highest paid ethnic groups or educated or successful ethnic groups would be Taiwanese people, and that's a huge thing. So when you're looking at people who are willing to donate money and send people out of their church to go to other countries, I think Taiwan is actually a place of abundance, but also a place where they know what it's like to be the other person. They know what it's like to not be treated well on the world stage. Taiwanese people know what it's like to go to a different country, and honestly, the Taiwanese people are incredibly adaptable when they go to a different country. They don't try to make that country Taiwan. They go to that country for what it is. And I personally believe that Taiwanese people would make some of the best missionaries in the world. And I would love to see more Taiwanese missionaries going out to reach other places and to reach their own people. So for me, the reason it's not America is just right now it feels like the more strategic place is Taiwan.
How have you grown in your understanding of the gospel as you have served cross-culturally?
I think in Taiwan specifically, I think Taiwanese people are always asking the question, like, who will sacrifice for me? Like, their whole life, if they're in Taiwanese folk religion, like, they are going to an altar, giving sacrifices to the ancestors and blessing them, and you raise up your children in a way to where whenever you die, you know that your children will keep worshiping you so that you will bless them, but also your afterlife will be blessed, and you will your children in a way are sort of like your afterlife insurance policy. What I really love about our particular work in general is, like, if you walk somebody like through the gospel and you see that there's this Jesus who has already paid the ultimate sacrifice for them, and they don't need to do anything to receive that, and they just have to accept it. And it's not like this workspace thing that they have to keep doing and have to keep earning, but Jesus did it once and for all.
I think being here, the gospel becomes a lot more precious. In America, granted, it's changing more and more every day, but before it was pretty easy to be a Christian in America. You didn't really have to give up a lot. You know, if you're a Christian, your friends just, okay, maybe they think you're weird, but that's about it. That you'll lose is your social interactions with them, maybe. But I think here and in many other countries, once you become a Christian, you end up cutting yourself off a lot of times, like from your family, because of the sacrifice thing. Well, if I'm a Christian, then I'm not going to sacrifice for my parents, so they don't want anything to do with me because I've just abandoned them. I've said that I don't care about them by saying, when you die, I'm not going to give you what you want, basically. They know that's not true because they believe in Christ, but their family doesn't understand that. So they have to give up a lot when they believe the gospel and when they trust in Christ. And so when you have that kind of mindset, the gospel becomes a lot more precious to you because that maybe is all you have. Last question. How do you respond when people hear that you're a missionary and put you up on kind of a pedestal? They think you're a super Christian, you're great because you're a missionary, you go to another country. How do you respond to that kind of situation?
I immediately start sitting in front of them. I'm just kidding. The way I view missions is I view it as like, it's a privilege to be here. I don't take that lightly. Like, I don't think that God needs me in Taiwan to save Taiwan. have to remember every single day that God loves these people here more than I ever could. And his heart is for them to be saved and for them to know him. And it's an opportunity that God has given me to be able to reach these people and to do missions here. But if I died tomorrow, or if I decided to just go back to a normal 9-to-5 like tomorrow, the mission is still here. Like, God is going to use somebody else to reach these people because God loves these people more than I ever could. It's just a privilege that I have just to be a part of it. And I don't know, it's really exciting for me to have that, but it also takes the pressure off too, where it's like, hey, if I don't want to do this, like, God is also going to use somebody else, and that's okay. But yeah, I just think that it would be easy to get into that mindset of like, oh, well, God, I've done all this for you. He doesn't need you. Like, he chooses to use you, and we need to like view it in that lens. So we received actually a lot more questions, and I think that this video would be way too long for us to go into all of them, but we just want to say thank you for those of you who wrote in. We really, really appreciate it. This is our first Q&A.
Probably, maybe.
Q&A.
This is our first confessions. If you liked this video, let us know in the comments and we could do another one. But yeah, like always, please like, comment, subscribe.
Why did you snap?
Like, comment, subscribe.
There you go. Thanks, Emily. Choreographer at heart, creative backbone.
We'll see you next time.
week.
I get in the elevator, and almost every time I meet a new person, they're like, "You from New Zealand? You from Canada?" I've even had people speak German to me and Russian, which I don't understand.
And Japanese.
That was the worst. My Chinese is so bad that one time Uber called, and they wanted to know if they could make a change in my order. So I spoke in Chinese, and then they were like, "Oh man," and they went and got somebody, and then they started speaking to me in Japanese because my accent is so bad. They thought I was a Japanese person, and then I was like, "I can just speak English," and the person spoke in like perfect English, which is like, "Why are you working at a tea shop?"